Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, today is Saturday, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for the thumbs ups and thumbs downs for the week. And it's been a pretty grim week. However, on an optimistic note, I will start with a thumbs up. And my thumbs up goes to Senator Rand Paul, who is a very principled person. He's
and a physician.
Exactly, he's a physician, exactly, a fully qualified physician. He actually practices. He still practices because he enjoys doing it. So he goes back to his home state and practices medicine. But he had a very interesting exchange this week with one of the great charlatans of our day, Tony Fauci. Yep. And Paul asked very reasonable questions. Why on earth are people being asked to take a vaccine if, according to Fauci, they can still transmit the virus and they must still go on wearing masks for years on end? And he kept pressing Fauci on this. And Fauci said, yeah, well, of course, the virus can mutate and, we can have, your worst variants. And then when Paul asked him, well, what's your scientific basis for that? What is your basis that anybody who once had COVID can get COVID again? What is your basis saying that somebody who's had the vaccine can still transmit the virus? And he had no scientific basis. So this charlatan who goes from TV studio to TV studio, lauded wherever he goes, really had no answers to some very basic questions. So I think that was a very commendable, excellent performance from
well, particularly since I think we can say, safely say, a year ago, Fauci was saying you don't need a mask.
Exactly. Now it's the two mask Tony.
I can barely breathe with these masks.
No, exactly.
Really, I find it very irritating. I don't think it's good for my health.
No.
I need fresh air. No. The good thing is that here, if you make a pretense to doing it, like I hang it down here or something like that. Nobody, whatever.
Right. No, I think that's right. It's the mask, and they really are not good for you. I mean, what you take out of your pocket a filthy, disgusting mask, put it on your face, so you're breathing in dirt, you're breathing in your own germs, you're breathing in carbon dioxide, not getting oxygen. I mean, that's supposed to be good for you. I mean, it's nuts.
No. So, I mean, if I could give the juxtaposition, the thumbs down is that the term expert when it comes to medicine, it's been completely dismantled.
Absolutely.
Okay, because you know what? I just go with common sense.
Right.
And this is the first time in modern history that I'm aware of where there was a self-induced recession. Okay, and the way I look at it is that particularly people on these liberal cable stations, and they do this mask shaming all the time. Let me just get this straight. None of you lost your jobs. All of you got paid, okay? Even if you did it in your basement in a makeshift studio, you got paid. Okay, how many millions of people were told they couldn't work and they didn't get paid? So I'm sick and tired of all of this. Stop lecturing us as if you know what's best for us, okay? Because there's no downside for you. What did you get, hardship pay from doing it at home? I bet some did.
Yeah. But the funny thing is that now they're desperately clinging on to this lockdowns and the masks. They will not let go. Even when everybody's been vaccinated, we still have to go around wearing two masks, because someday there might be a mutation of the virus, which will come along in 10, 15 years time. So the idea is that we should be wearing masks now for the rest of our lives. It's insane.
The Black Plague might come back,
exactly.
George.
That's the logic of what Fauci is saying. Well, it might be, it might mutate into something worse, but that's pure speculation. And you're going to force people to wear this terrible thing on the basis of a completely unscientific speculation?
I am not a medical professional. I want to make it very, very clear. But I'm just going to give you my common sense approach here. elderly people and people with preconditions should have been sequestered, okay? That would have been the right thing to do. And then just let herd immunity. We would have been through this by now. We would have been done.
Yep.
Okay. So
Right.
the medical professionals, at least on TV, made complete fools out of themselves, and they hurt the citizenry in the process. I have a thumbs up too. Okay. I'll start out with realism in foreign policy. What was on full display in Ankara is this crock of values. Is just what it is, a crock, okay? It's talk about national interests. And we saw realism there, but on the side of the Chinese, okay? Right. Now, that is not to say that they are faultless. No, you and I said this yesterday. Right. There's many, many things to talk about, okay? Right. But what has to do with national interest and global security, not beating your chest about pointing a finger at someone when you're just as an egregious offender of the same thing. Okay, so realism won for a change. Okay, it was really quite refreshing, and I have to say I took great pleasure watching Blinken get humiliated in public. I did enjoy it. Okay, because I'm tired of this professional and managerial class that is they screw up everything they touch, everything. Right. Okay, right. I don't care if it's the economy, if it's education, if it's the medical sector. I don't care, because these professional managerial people that think they know what they're doing because they're credentialed by their friends who are credentialed. It's a wake-up call. We need to get rid of this class of people. They're parasites.
Right. No, I mean that's a very good point. And the amusing thing is that the media are somehow presenting it as Russian and Chinese aggression, forgetting that it was Biden who picked this fight with the Russians with his outrageous comments, something just nobody ever does. Nobody ever talked that way about Stalin or Khrushchev or any of
Blinken chose a fight with his interlocutor.
Exactly, and Blinken chose it with the Chinese. And so here they say, oh, well, it's, China is seeking to, export its authoritarian system. There was a long article in the New York Times today by David Sanger, their diplomatic correspondent, always giving the US government spin. So, oh, well, America, poor little America, we're, trying desperately to resist the aggressive export of authoritarianism from Russia and China. Now, neither Russia nor China does anything to export its system. It has no interest in that, absolutely no interest in doing any of that. Russia explicitly abjures that. It says, we learned from the Soviet experience that it's a really bad idea to try to impose governments on unwilling people.
It doesn't work. It's really expensive, but it impoverishes yourself.
Right, exactly. And the Chinese have no interest in this. But now that the Blinken and Sullivan had made such a complete hash of everything in Anchorage, and and then also with Putin, so again the media machine goes into operation and tries to make it as if, well, poor little us, we're being picked on and bullied by the world's bad guys. No, I mean, not on. It's, as you said, these are the people who are being realistic and say, you want to talk about specific things, we're ready to talk, but we aren't going to talk about, values as you define them, rules-based orders as you define them, and we're certainly not going to talk about internal affairs with you.
I don't think any time in our lifetime, George, maybe ever, when a foreign delegation dressed down the Secretary of State on American soil. Wow. Okay. Blinken should resign. He should leave. Okay. He should leave. He should resign. Okay. He wasn't prepared.
He wasn't prepared. No, I'm just thinking of, Khrushchev spoke harshly to Americans. We were talking about it just before we started the podcast, but he did it on foreign soil. I mean, when he dressed down Kennedy, that was in Vienna. He didn't do it when he visited Camp David. So that didn't happen on American soil.
But when they had the kitchen debate, and Vice President Nixon, he had the kitchen debate with Khrushchev, but that was a debate. That was a give and take. Okay, it wasn't a dressing down.
Right, and he was in Moscow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So now we get to the thumbs down. what obviously summed down is the media coverage of President Biden's obvious infirmity. Yesterday we watched him, yeah, well, we watched him stumble 3 times when he was going up Air Force One. Now, okay, people trip up. I mean, there's nothing unusual about that. However, this goes, just days after his repeated references to President Harris. This comes after his extraordinary confusion about generally about what's going on after him. And then you have to think about, well, what about the times that they made a completely phony baloney story about Trump's supposed ill health when he was gripping the guardrails when he visited the Marine headquarters? The floor was steep and it was slippery. Anybody would sit there and grab.
He's wearing dress shoes.
Yeah,
he didn't fall over.
He just grabbed the guardrail. I mean, anybody would do that. They made that into an issue. There were countless think pieces in the New York Times. Is Trump really going to last his term? And then, of course, going back, before when Reagan stumbled a couple of times, again, well, Reagan's health is dire. And the funniest thing of all was back in the day, people can remember when Gerald Ford stumbled a couple of times. But the ridiculous thing about the Gerald Ford was that Gerald Ford had been a professional athlete. So this is a person, who had nothing if not good coordination. And yet, nonetheless, the media made a whole meal out of the fact that he stumbled a couple of times. So it's so phony. But the media are deliberately downplaying Biden's obvious frailties.
And remember George Senior, he threw up on the Japanese prime minister.
Yes, that's a good one. Yes, exactly. That's threw up. Yeah, he just had the flu. I mean,
but Barbara picked up that napkin and cleaned it right up. Let's proceed here. Okay.
Right, that's right. And look, the man lived a very long life, so he wasn't that sick when this happened.
Having said that, I remember it was around the year 2000, 2001. I was listening to a few of Gerald Ford's speeches. I don't know how I came across it. It was online. Compared to today's politicians, Gerald Ford was quite eloquent. Okay,
it is strange because he was always made fun of as being very dumb. But you're right; he was quite eloquent compared to today's politicians.
Okay, mine's actually the same, but it's a thumbs down. And I'm just going to nuance what you just said here. It's interesting that foreign media will say what they see, while domestic media, you can't talk about Joe's health minus Hannity, of course. Hannity goes on and over and over and over again. Yesterday on his program, he showed Biden tripping up like 15 times, okay? Which whatever. But foreign media, like the Australian media, they're really quite blunt in reporting on what they see here. So we have this paradigm right now where domestic media, depending on your political point of view, it will determine how you report on Joe's health, okay? But outsiders have no qualms about that whatsoever. They just comment on what they see. And like you said, President Harris, you know what it is that Joe just thinks he's still vice president. Okay,
right, but again, that shows serious defects, whatever cognitive problems. It's a long time since he was vice president. You should by now have become used to the fact that he's not vice president anymore. Yet he does this all the time. He says this, talks about, I think he's referred to the Harris-Biden administration. It's very.
I think he was just traumatized by Obama. Okay. Obama probably berated him and made fun of him and bullied him for 8 years, and it just crushed him. Okay.
It may be going on right now. For all we know, Obama's in touch with the White House all the time, and so maybe that's also playing a part in it. That he somehow knows that Obama is the one who's calling the shots in the White House.
Yeah, everyone's worried about what Trump is doing because without Twitter, but I suspect that Obama is up to a whole lot more. Okay?
I think so.
I think it's the only president in our lifetime that kept a residence in Washington, D.C.
Yes, I think so. I think so, yeah. And Harris is an Obama creature. Susan Rice is an Obama creature. I think the number of people in the White House are Obama creatures. So, I am sure he's very actively involved in what goes on.
You know, I figured out one of the reasons why Kamala Harris is always hovering. She's the one that checks the pulse. Is he with us? Yeah, he's still with us. All right, I have a thumbs down, and it's kind of nuanced here. The end of the Me Too movement, okay? It's over because of the Cuomo. I've lost track. Is it 8 now when women have accused him?
From yesterday on, yeah.
Okay, you know what? I'll get pummeled for saying this here. What happened to those women? And I agree. You should listen to every woman. I don't say you should believe every woman. There's a nuance there, but you should listen. I think that's fair. All right, listen. But people like Kamala Harris, one of the big Me Tooers of years past, has remained, as we speak at least, largely silent or completely silent. As disgusting as Cuomo's behavior is, and I think it's widely known the guy's just a pig, all right? But you know what bothers me, George, is that by trying to recast the Me Too movement for political purposes, of course, you're taking the spotlight off the nursing home catastrophe, okay? And that really irritates me a lot, okay? Because as disgusting as harassment is, and I think everyone would universally agree with that, it's taking the spotlight off of thousands.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. But I think they're doing that deliberately because, of course,
yes,
Cuomo is not the only one who's vulnerable on this issue, because, of course, Whitmer, who's also one of the rising stars within the Democratic Party, is vulnerable on this issue. Then the guy in New Jersey, I always forget his name, he's also vulnerable on this issue. So they don't really want to go down this path, and so that's why they want to focus on this. I mean, it's generally, it makes the Democratic Party look bad. I mean, when you look at it and say, yeah, they were just dumping people that they knew were major virus carriers. They were dumping them on the most vulnerable population. It does make the Democrats look bad. And then, of course, it also makes the media look bad, because the media was celebrating him. I mean, month after month, they were celebrating this, the man, the savior. You remember there was a movement to dump Biden and replace him with Cuomo. And then, of course, it raises the question of Chris Cuomo. I mean, all those horrible, obsequious interviews that Chris was conducting with his brother. So media looks really bad if we go down this path.
It's so extraordinary is that we went through years of Russiagate where the media has never come to terms with its culpability in perpetuating this hoax. And then we have this Cuomo phenomenon where they raved about him because he wasn't the obvious juxtaposition to Donald Trump. And now they're all left with their pants down and they just don't know what to say, okay? It's really extraordinary how these people have no self-reflection whatsoever. I mean, they have acquitted themselves in the most awful way.
Right. No, I absolutely. I mean, it is really a disgrace, a national disgrace, that there's been no accounting for Russiagate, for the fact that, there was years and years of lies, a completely phony, fraudulent story that destroyed people's lives, destroyed American foreign policy, was pretty much undermined the Trump administration from the beginning. And it was nothing. It was complete zero. It was completely made up out of whole cloth, and there's been absolutely no accounting for that. It's an absolute disgrace.
You're up.
Yeah, I got a couple of smaller issues. As you remember from last year when Carter Page filed a lawsuit against the U.S. government and particular individuals, Comey, and McCabe, Page, and the rest of them. And so he filed that, basically seeking a large sum of money. Now the government is moving to dismiss Page's suit. Now we already know that as facts, this isn't even something allegation. We never know as facts. The Pfizer court said that we were deceived. We know from the Inspector General's report saying the Pfizer court was deceived, that the warrants for the Pfizer surveillance of Page were fraudulent. That we know from the Inspector General's report. We know about Kleinsmith. We know that he faked documents in order to deny that Page was a CIA source. We know all of this. And the U.S. government, instead of saying, okay, let's just work out a sum and let this thing go away, the U.S. government has the insolence to try to move to dismiss Page's lawsuit. It's truly revolting.
Well, I mean, we have the George Floyd trial. At least the jury pool is being sized up here. The city of Minneapolis awarded George Floyd's family $27 million for wrongful death. And there hasn't even been a trial. There hasn't even been an outcome.
Right. $27 million is a lot of money. I mean, I think as somebody said, it's 3 years of what the police budget, the Minneapolis police budget is. So that is one serious wad of money that they're giving to this family. And as you say, there's been no trial. So nothing has yet been established as to the culpability.
Well, I mean, it's very interesting too, because it looks like the prosecution, the prosecution is being told that certain parts of George Floyd's life cannot be discussed, his past, okay? Which, of course, I mean, this is fraught with so much danger. It looks like the judge is incompetent, no surprise there. All right, I have another thumbs down. I think we can pretty much be assured that the Afghan war will continue, okay? Like a bad next Netflix series, it's got another season ahead of it, okay? We don't know if that season's gonna last a few years or another 20 years, okay? But the generals won, the contractors have won, the Afghan government, one of the most corrupt in the world, it looks like they're a winner too. So the grift goes on. If you want a masterclass in grift, look at the Afghan war. Okay, that's what it's been from the get-go. Okay, so the generals, it looks like they've got their way.
Yeah, no, that's right. And it was funny that during Stephanopoulos' interview with Biden, and Biden told him that, I think May the 1st, probably unlikely. And then Stephanopoulos fawningly said, but when will we leave? Oh, soon after that. And Stephanopoulos just happily left it at that. Now, any self-respecting journalist would have said, well, what do you mean? I mean, then once the United States doesn't leave on May the 1st, the Taliban says all bets are off, then they will begin attacking the US servicemen. And then we're basically in for another 20 years. So but he was happy, Stephanopoulos was happy with this answer. Yeah, but soon after that, just a couple of more months, that's all we really need. We've been there for 20 years, just need a couple more months to get everything sorted out.
Yeah, that's like a drug addict saying, I just need to shoot up one more time and I'm done.
One more time, and then I'm good, I'm clean.
They rolled Obama, they obstructed Trump, okay? And of course, you and I have said repeatedly that by definition, Biden rolls for these people, okay? So, another 20 years, okay?
Oh, no, that's right. Then I've got a sort of somewhat unusual one. Alexei McCammond, whom I must say I had never heard of. I mean, she briefly made an appearance in the media a month or so ago because she was having an affair with somebody who had some job in the White House communications office, and the guy in the White House communication office, he lost his job and so on. Anyway, the affair was with this Alexei McCammond, who at the time was a reporter at Axios. Now, a few weeks ago, Alexei McCammond was appointed by Condé Nast as editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue. Now, I've never in my life read Teen Vogue. I don't even know what it looks like, but she was appointed editor-in-chief. And apparently, some old tweets of hers, she's 27, so some tweets of hers when she was 17 emerged, in which she was making fun of her teachers at university, or maybe at school, making fun of them as Asians. She herself is African American, so she was making fun of them as Asians, talking about their eyes and so on and so forth. So there was a revolt at Teen Vogue, said we don't want her as editor-in-chief. And this week, basically, Condé Nast threw in the towel and said, no, she's not going to be.
After she groveled.
Yeah, after she groveled, but said, no, we can't have it. Now, this is par for the course. It happens all the time. It's deplorable, but that's what America is. However, the liberal political culture rushed to her defense. And they're all, there's an article in The Atlantic with the title, America Has Forgotten How to Forgive. Because this poor woman has been persecuted for tweets that she wrote when she was 17. Now, how many other people, so many other people's careers have been destroyed for tweets that they wrote when they were 17? I mean, they're legion, but their politics was wrong. So that was okay. If you don't like their politics, that's fine. Kick them out, humiliate them, destroy their lives for things that they did when they're 17. But in this case, because she's a reporter of Axios, she was part of the little club, the media club. Suddenly, everyone's rushing to her rescue. You have New York Times reporters, well, this cancel culture has gone too far. Aren't we going to allow teenagers to be teenagers?
Yeah, and they invented it. They invented
it. Exactly. Well, she was only 17 at the time. Yeah, when have you allowed anyone who's a Trump supporter for, give them a break because they were only 16 or 17 at the time? Never. But suddenly, if it hurts one of their own, whoom, they're suddenly, up in arms. This cancel culture, I'm against it. We can't go around persecuting people for things that they did as children. So enough of this hypocrisy.
Let's look at this Al Franken, okay, which I thought he was an awful senator. Okay, yes. He really was, okay. And I obviously didn't like his politics, but what they did to him was wrong, okay? He was a comedian that acted like a jerk, and he was a jerk.
Well, I think Franken was well, because Franken was doing those things when he was a senator. I mean, I think the problem with Franken was that, there was a picture of him with kind of doing obscene things. He was a senator at the time, and he could have got away with that. The problem was that a lot of women that suddenly came forward and said that he had this tendency when he was posing for photographs with young women to let his hands wander, so which, photographers didn't see. And there was just, you always get one break, but when it becomes an accumulation, then, you're done for.
Okay. Well, it's just that it's very selective. Okay.
Right. No, yeah, that's right. But he was attacked by his own side. I mean, that was, it was Kristen Gillibrand who launched the.
Has she said much about Cuomo?
No, she's been keeping a low profile. She may have said something, but generally, I think. I imagine she's probably with Schumer. I mean, Schumer's the senior senator from New York. She's the junior senator, so I imagine she's probably sticking with Schumer.
Well, it's their mess. Let them.
Right. No, I think that if you're going to be against cancel culture, as I think you and I are, then I think one should be consistent. But basically, yeah. I mean, what people say at the age of 16 or 17, for God's sake, people make fools of themselves. But
all I can say,
argument when it's one of your own, but everyone else, great, kill them.
Yeah, well, I guess we should be very thankful that there was no such thing as social media when we were 17.
Right, exactly.
All right, thumbs down. Everyone knows the phrase, if it's not broken, why fix it? Right. The crisis on the border. Right. Okay. I've been very critical of many things Donald Trump did as president, but he got the border right. Okay. Right. And he had a coalition. He had the Mexicans working with him and the Mexican government. Okay. It was working. It was working. This is a self-induced crisis, an intentional one. Okay. But, again, when you look at how it's being reported, the Fox side and then the CNN side, obviously diametrically opposed. I suggest everyone to kind of dive deep into it if you're interested in this topic and find out really what's going on here, because it's very polemicized right now. But I tend to gravitate towards people that have worked on the border before, sometimes for decades, and I tend to make assessments based on what they have to say, not what Chris Cuomo or Don Lemon has to say over at CNN. So I just real quick, I mean, where's AOC? I need that picture of her crying in front of
crying, you know, which was, you know, wearing that white suit, and she was crying.
Well,
yeah,
I know it's out there. She did it probably. I just missed it. Okay, I just missed it. Sorry, everyone.
Well, it looked very fake even at the time. I mean, it looked like a sort of a bad actress trying to look as if she's crying. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's a very serious situation because, after all, the primary responsibility of government is to protect the public, and if you don't protect your border, then you are failing in your primary responsibility. So it's an absolutely outrageous, and this kind of brings up a point, one of my thumbs down, which is this guy Alejandro Mayorkas, who is the new Homeland Secretary, who a couple of weeks ago had said at a White House press briefing, he said that my message is to the people trying to get into the country is, you know, I'm not saying don't come. I'm just saying don't come now. You know, wait for us to get everything organized over here. Now, when somebody says, a senior figure in the administration says, well, don't come now. We're just getting everything organized so that you'll be able to come later. Well, yeah, it is a signal to, you know, everybody and his uncle to come right over, because
get those caravans organized. Yeah. Get the caravans organized.
That's right. I mean, if you're coming in and right away, you know, you're going to be given housing, you're going to be given medical care, you're going to be given education. Well, of course, people are going to come. It's like, I mean, it really is this. You know, I think it's somebody had tweeted, I think this week, saying that it's like a sign, you know, an all-you-can-eat buffet, and it says free of charge. Well, pow! Everyone's going to go for the all-you-can-eat buffet.
Anyway, the way for me, it's going to be, this could be the seminal issue for the midterms here, because if you look at a lot of the indicators here, and this is exactly what the Biden administration was banking on, is that the checks have been sent out. They want to overheat the economy. They want to see high consumption, because people are going to go out and they're going to spend, okay, and they're hoping that that's going to be their winning ticket. But if you know when you flood the labor force with low skilled workers, yes, it could cancel it out. We're going to be watching this very, very closely, but this is a calculus that is very, very dangerous. We have to remember, we keep reminding people here, that was the issue that got Donald Trump elected in 2016.
Yeah, I think so. And that, I think, is, you know, another thumbs down, leads to another thumbs down, which is the opinion polls. And the media are still going by these opinion polls. So they tell us this, Biden is enjoying these very high ratings in the polls. You know, he's a 59% approval rating. Now, this is a 50-50 country. So if you're saying that he has 59% approval rating, that means he must have won over 9%. In other words, he would have had to have won over 1/5 of the Trump voters. 1/5 of the people who voted for Trump, who absolutely revile the Democrats and everything, would have won over and said, yeah, I think good old Joe's doing a good job. It is ludicrous. I don't believe it for one moment. And yet, despite the abysmal performance of polls, not just in the recent US elections, but worldwide, they're getting everything wrong worldwide. They still, you know, they still report faithfully, well, the polls show that Biden is enjoying record high approval ratings.
No, I think we should have a rule here at the Gaggle, is that don't mention the polls, okay? Because they're just basically worthless. You know, they're still, and it's happening, I believe, at an accelerated rate. People don't trust pollsters, okay? Sure. So they're either not going to give an answer, or they're going to give an answer to spite them, okay? Right. Yeah. They're not going to tell the truth, all right? So the pollsters
don't pick up. People are not going to pick up, you know.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's one of the things that I came across this thesis, is that one of the reasons why the polls were so wrong for the 2020 election is that it's liberals living in their basement that wanted to tell people what they think. They actively wanted to get their opinion out there. And then you have people that supported Trump or a conservative, and they just won't pick up the phone. And that's a good way, as good as a skew.
Exactly. And that is the very basic error of marketing, which is that it becomes self-selective. So whenever you're doing a sampling and it becomes a self-selective sample, then that means those results are completely unreliable.
George, when someone calls me and I don't recognize the number, it's very likely that I will not even answer.
No, and most people wouldn't. I mean, I would never do that. If it's an unrecognizable number, not going to answer. I mean, it's just common sense. I mean, it's probably somebody demanding money. I mean, I think that would be.
Or it's a robocall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I'm done with mine.
Have I got anything else? No, I think I'm done too. I think we've gone through.
I really kind of want to reiterate what we talked about yesterday, because I thought it was really important, and I really thought we did a good job, is don't underestimate what's going on in the world right now, because the U.S. can't bully its way anymore. It's reached that peak right now. Right. And so cooler heads, more realism is necessary.
No, I think that's right.
And I just want to make sure everybody understands, George and I are very adamant is that countries do have disagreements, and very serious ones, okay? But you have to couch it in national interests and not in values, okay? That's the way you can make progress.
No, I think that's a very important point. And that's why Americans who live, particularly American political commentators who live in this bubble, were convinced, oh, the rest of the world hates Trump just as we do. And so they would be welcome. Oh, great. The professionals are back. Blinken's back. Sullivan, all these great guys are back. The rest of the world, first of all, much of the rest of the world didn't share the animus towards Trump that the US media and political elites did. But, above all, they don't like the kind of talk that comes from these people. And what at least they liked about Trump, that doesn't mean that they actually, liked him personally, or they liked US policy during the Trump years. They at least got somebody who was promoting real, palpable US national interest. The Chinese can work with that. The Russians can work with that. They can't work with somebody who's lecturing them about values. I mean, that's an absolute no-no. And if you go there and it says, well, what's our agenda? Well, our agenda is Tibet, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Xinjiang, genocide against the Uyghurs. That's your agenda? I mean, they're going to kick you right out of the door.
The non-starter. That's
right.
A non-starter. Okay.
Right.
Just as we said yesterday, if that's what Blinken wants to do, then the Chinese can say, well, what's going on with the George Floyd trial? We have problems there. Maybe we should take it to some kind of international human rights court. Okay. I mean, you can't, if you want to go into that realm, expect it to be thrown back at you. Okay.
Right. No, that's exactly right. All right, Peter, that was our thumbs ups and thumbs downs for the week. We will, of course, be back, so everyone can be nervous about who will be excoriated in 7 days' time. We will be back soon, and we're also on Rumble. Look us up on Rumble. And remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.